Okay, change of pace. We're gonna pretend to be QA now. I'm sure he won't mind. He's a swell enough guy, right? It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Okay. Let's get situated here. Honestly, the best way to get into the industry right now, I would say, if you're not going for something like computer science or it's like some sort of degree, entry level job. If you can find QA near you or something remote, quality assurance is a really good way to get your feet wet in the industry. That's what I did. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna QA the game that we're technically making. So I'm gonna act as QA for said developer. We're gonna just go through and make this Jira project. I'm going to take you through creating the entire account, write up a task. We're gonna search for bugs. We're gonna write up bugs. In QA, we have to ensure that we're clear and concise to developers. We're technically developers ourselves. There's a lot of responsibilities that follow us. It's not just playing the game and saying whether it's good or bad. That's actually terrible QA. The best QA will be clear, concise, honest. You'll be able to identify what's wrong with the title you're working on as a software. It's up to the developer to fix or choose to fix certain issues, but your job is to find as many issues, big, small, and then if you have a problem with the game design itself, you can make a suggestion if you want, but ultimately that's up to the developer. They'll have maybe their own internal QA or design. They'll be looking at forums. They'll be getting a handle on how their game is going to be received. Your job is mainly to kind of help them along that journey. And it's a fun journey, so we're going to get started with this.
Okay, so if you're going to do this, go ahead and go to Atlassian.com. The link will be in the description. We're not sponsored, I wish, but you'll go ahead and make a Jira software project. Do what I had done and just go through the projects tab and get the full experience, which is how they kind of go about doing this. And this will be how you make your overall project. This is a project management tool. This is usually where you spend a lot of your time as QA and basically as a developer. You would both probably share one of these for the most part, unless there's another solution you use like Trello. But either way, once you have your project created, it will give you a template that you can then use to start making your task. So this is going to be a slow process to building this out, and I want to do this through a few videos because I don't want to overwhelm you with a lot of the details. But we're gonna go ahead and make a build of the game and we're going to test it. We're gonna write our first task and we're going to overall get our first impressions of the title. So let's go ahead and do that.
Alright, now we need to get a build. The build can get to you in a few different ways. In our case, we're going to say that the developer gave us access to said repository on GitHub and we can download the build. For you, it'll probably be on itch.io. I'm going to see if I can also upload this build to the Git. If not, itch.io has probably got us. We're going to download it. We're going to make sure that it runs. And we're going to do everything that the task has for us. Then we're going to write some bugs. So let's go ahead and do that.
Alright, we're going to jump back into the shoes of the developer really quick. We're just going to go into the build tab. We're going to make an executable. We are going to just choose to make a package of the build, basically. So you can make an installer or you can make a zip file. I'm going to choose to make the zip. and I'm going to just have a standalone folder with my build so I can run it easier. If you're going to pass it along to QA, you may want to do that. The install method also something you want to check out because your users are going to need to do that. So that's something that's good to test. Now, once we get this build unzipped and I'm able to play it, I'm going to go ahead and just launch it myself while I've got it. Make sure it launches, make sure it does the thing. Now, I have the time to do this at the moment as the developer. Let's say I'm just in a position where, once I make the build, I've got the ability to test. So I'm going to do this now. This may not be the case in the future, and we'll talk about why it may not be so easy to do. But for now, it looks like this build is launching. It looks like it does the thing I want it to do. So we're going to go ahead and pass it along to QA.
Alright, we've got a project. We need to write a task. So if you've never been in quality assurance before, a task is kind of a goal. It has it's got a kind of a test parameter that you're going to do while you're playing the game, right? You can't necessarily just go off. I mean, you can. It's called ad hoc, right? Where you kind of go out and do your own thing and find your own bugs, and when you get good enough, you will be able to do that. There will be times when you'll need to do that because maybe you just don't get a build. But the test tasks that are written are guidelines, right? They're there for you to look at certain areas of the game, certain areas that you think have the most bugs in them. When you execute that task, you do it, you start it, you complete it. Once you're complete with it, you're done with the task, right? These can take many forms. They can have many things that go with them. So let's get to writing them.
Okay, so we're gonna just pretend like I'm not doing this out of order and just say that the developer already had a task pre-made for themselves called create a working standalone build to the game. And that would have been the task that they filled out in order to create the game. So I'm going to set that to in progress, and once they're done with that task, they'll close it out. So moving on to the QA's task, again, we're going to ignore those other bugs that I had already written, and we're just going to go with this task. Test functionality of the newest build. So that's going to be our current tasking, and this is basically up to who your task lead is at the time. It's most likely going to be an STE, a software test engineer. There's a lot of lingo for a lot of titles. They'll probably look at what needs to be tested, where they think they'll get the most bugs, and how to go about testing the functionality of your build. So I'm going to write like a couple of tasking items for this task list in here. Now, there's a few ways you can go about this. You can link an Excel document if you want to make an Excel document to keep track of all this and link it. You can write it in the task like I'm doing here. You can do it in a separate type of documentation file. You have options. So this is essentially, we're going to test the game for a few things. We're going to go through just launching the title. We're going to go through and just make sure that the things that the developers say is in there are in there. Now, there are some things that I have written here that aren't listed in the documentation, and that's because I haven't released any documentation for this. I do have documentation pre-written. We're just gonna pretend like I already have that to look at. So, things like the menu, things like how it's supposed to look, the points and everything. We're gonna pretend like that's already documented and ready to go. With that said, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up writing this task, and we're gonna pretend like we've distributed it among testers, and they're going to go through with this task and see how many bugs they can find. So let's do that. Okay, so I have the build. Go ahead and launch it. That is not the main menu I'm supposed to be seeing. It's pretty bare bones. Died. Alright, look, I'm good at video games. They hired me. They hired only the best of the best here. We're going to play through this, and we are going to succeed. So, I'm going to go ahead and play through this. We should be able to go through levels. I'm going to say around 2,000. We're going to get to the second level, 2,000 points. So let's try to get 2,000 points. So far the functionality seems to work as far as the shooting. The rocks are there. I've just powered up. I didn't go to the next level. Why not? That's a bug. I can keep with the point system and still no level. So that's a bug. There should be more levels here. So I'm going to try to break this. I'm gonna shoot a different way. I'm gonna shoot the way that they wouldn't expect. Thought so. Okay, so I'm beyond 10, which is where you get the first power up. And I don't have any power up progression on my ship anymore. I'm still normal. The way I'm doing this is I'm tapping the fire button as opposed to holding it. That's not something that I think the developer counted on, and that's something that you as a tester would need to be aware of. So I got a couple bugs that I'm going to write up now. There's probably more, but I'm gonna get these written up.
Holy crap, who made this game? As you can see, the tasking and the bug list don't match up what the developer is saying should happen. We found a few bugs already. I'm gonna let y'all just kind of download the repository. If you find another bug, put it in the description if you want. Get some practice. We're gonna keep with that same format of problem, action, location. For the bug, be clear, be concise. This is how you practice if you want to get into QA. And then on top of that, we're gonna get into project departments. That's where you kind of assign it to not just developers, but which department of the developer. Is it design? Is it code? Is it art? It could go to a few people, right? There's many people that work on games. Producer needs to kind of sift through, assign these to the proper people so that they can get addressed in the proper manner. So that's the whole reason why we do that. Now, at this point, you may be thinking that this is a little redundant, right? It might seem like the developer should be doing this and not an entire separate department. The thing is that the developer is making the game in their version of their editor, and they have a lot of work to do, right? They have to follow their own design document. Implementing this stuff takes time, and they can test it out to a certain extent. They can make a build, but the time it takes for them to stop work, stop putting things in the game and testing, that's also development time. And if you can do that simultaneously, that's all the better. That's why QA houses exist. This is the whole purpose of agile development. The name of the game here is efficiency. So while the developer is working, QA is ideally finding bugs, sending them back. We fix, deploy, test, fix, deploy, test. The cycle goes over and over until we get something that we're both happy with. We're never really going to get 100%. Y'all have played games that you probably found various bugs for. Guaranteed, QA found them first. Guaranteed somebody already knew about them and it was something that they deemed shippable. Does that make sense to you? Maybe. It depends on how severe the bug is. But the truth of the matter is that some bugs you find, you're gonna see as top priority, and some things that they have to work on are going to take higher priority. It's just the name of the game. This is a business after all, and you have to choose and pick your battles. So I hope that makes sense. And from here, what we're going to do is we're going to assign these bugs to their specific departments, and we're going to just move forward.
Okay, so we have a total of 3 bugs to write up. The first one is going to be about the UI. The UI is supposed to have some design on it. This one does not. It's actually pretty bare bones and it looks ugly. So I'm going to write something to that effect. I'm gonna preface all of these with bugs in brackets. And when you title these, you gotta title them in a specific format. In this case, I'm going to use the PAL format, P-A-L, problem, action, location. You're going to write what the problem is, what action you did to get there, and where you found it. Once you get to that point, then you'll actually write a description. Bugs actually have a good amount to them. The goal here is you're trying to be clear for the developer so that they can fix the problem you found. So I'm going to do some formatting on these bugs. There's going to be a description field. There's going to be a repro step field. There's going to be some notes. And then I'm going to do some attachments, some media attachments. This media is going to be in the form of a video or a picture, something the developer can look at visually that will give them a better idea. Remember, we're trying to be clear about these bugs, not confusing, and you want to sound professional. Don't sound like you're talking down to people. I know gamer culture has taught us to express our feelings in a negative manner. This is not the time to do that. It's time to be professional. So we're gonna go ahead and write up these bugs, and once I have all 3 of these written down, then we'll go ahead and go over them. Okay, we've got 3 bugs written. One for the title UI, one for the fact that the power-up meter doesn't function when you're just tapping the shoot button, and one for the fact that there is no level progress of any kind, even when you're at a high score. These are all things that the developer is going to have to address as they come in. So that's all the more reason why it's important for you to be clear on this. This is how we prioritize issues. The developer is relying on us to give them direction on what they need to fix. So I've added another field on these bugs called priority. We're going to do priority 1 through 4, with 0 also being a specific priority. In the future, we are going to add another field called severity, and we're going to divide those up between QA and developer, where QA will fill out severity and developer will fill out priority. But for now, we're going to keep it with just one, priority. So, as it stands, we're going to assign the priority to be what we feel is best, and then the developer can change that.
Alright, that's it. I think we're done with this initial part of QA. There is a lot to this, right? There is a lot to setting this up. That's why this requires a whole separate department of people that are constantly in the software playing, finding bugs, and always trying to improve the software. And really, that's the reason we do this, right? QA might not be the most glamorous title. It might not be, you might not be a direct developer, but you are contributing to the title's integrity. You're contributing to the knowledge and database that the developers need to make the best work possible. Without QA, games just wouldn't release as complete as they do. So when you find a bug in a game out in the wild, just know that there was probably 100 more that were underneath it that took priority. And nowadays, bugs get addressed. It may take maybe a couple weeks, a couple months. It depends on the developer roadmap, if I'm being honest. But your integrity as a tester is to just keep finding bugs so that developers can just keep fixing them and delivering the best product. So I'm gonna call it here. Thanks for joining me, and next time we're gonna do more development. We're gonna address the bugs as the developer. We're gonna implement the fixes, and we're gonna just move forward. All right, y'all. Thanks.